Okay, today's topic is going to be a retirement checklist, and welcome back. Today we're going to hit the reset button on something very important. We're building a definitive checklist for the most consequential transition of your lifetime, and that would be mandatory retirement at age, in my case, was 65. I'm not approaching this from a textbook position. I've lived through this. I went through this a year and a half ago when I went through forced retirement process at American Airlines. So I know exactly what it feels like to see that final paycheck land and realize that that someday talk has become a hard deadline and is now today talk. So let's just jump into this. Every month, I speak to about 40 to 50 pilots as I help them build their schedule for the following month. And a lot of them are staring right down the same road that I just left, retirement. And when I bring up the technical landmines that they're going to be facing and that we're going to cover today, I'm always surprised by how few of these pilots even know these landmines exist. And why is that? Typically, the company doesn't talk about this a lot, maybe even the unions, not much at all as well. So today we're going to focus on three areas primarily that actually move the needle: the gap years, the IRMAA or income related monthly adjustment amount, traps, and the strategic shifts that determine whether your plan holds or it starts leaking water immediately. Okay, so here we go. The heavy lifting begins earlier than most people think. It can start at 60 or even earlier. And I use what I call a 5 bucket system. I've talked about this multiple times in various other shows to manage this transaction. You can call it asset allocation. You can call it time segmented. The label, frankly, it doesn't really matter. The outcome is really all that matters. So bucket one is your insurance layer. It's a 3 years of spending money held strictly in cash or cash equivalents. I do not view this as an investment. I do view it as insurance. It exists for one reason and one reason only, and that's protect you from sequence of return risks. Again, look at some of my other shows to see exactly what that's all about. If the market drops precipitously, call it 20% in the first year of retirement, and you don't have this bucket in place, you're forced to sell assets while they are down just to generate income to live off of. And that locks your losses in permanently. Bucket one gives you time. It allows your growth assets to recover without interference. It gives you a 3 year runway so that you're not making poor decisions under pressure. Now, before we go deeper into the Medicare and tech strategies, I have a quick sidebar for you. I'm sharing this as a retired airline pilot who's navigated these transactions successfully. This is not personalized financial advice, or tax, or legal advice. Think of this more as a discussion between friends, or maybe even a peer-to-peer briefing. Take these concepts and run them past your own professionals to see how they apply to your situation. Okay, so now we move into the most misunderstood areas of retirement. First one would be IRMAA, IRMAA. At age 63, you enter what is called the look back window. Medicare does not look at your current income. I want to be clear on that. It looks back exactly 2 years to determine what you'll have to pay. So, for example, your income at age 63 determines your Medicare premiums at age 65, which could be based on $500,000 of income as opposed to now, which is almost zero. And here is where it gets really dangerous. IRMAA is not gradual. In fact, it's a cliff. If you go over even $1 over these thresholds, your premiums jump for the entire year. For many couples, that line sits just above $200,000 of income. $1 over that can trigger a significant increase in your Medicare cost. But there is always a way to correct this. And that's another point that we're going to talk about today. If your income drops because you retire, you can file a form SSA 44. SSA 44. That form allows you to report a life-changing event. When you provide documentation like, for example, your separation notice that you got from your company, Social Security can reset your IRMAA level based on your new lower income. Most people do not even know this form exists until after they've already paid more than they really needed to. Okay. Now we're entering what I call the administrative red zone. What do I mean by this? This is where small mistakes turn into long-term penalties. First, let's take a look at the HSA, or the Health Savings Account. That's a tax-advantaged account issue. Medicare Part A is retroactive for up to 6 months. Medicare Part A is retroactive up to 6 months. Because of that, you're required to stop contributing to your HSA a full 6 months before you apply to Medicare. And if you don't, you can trigger excise taxes and ongoing penalties. Second, Medicare Part B. If you continue working past age 65, you need to confirm that your employer coverage, is considered credible. If it's not, and you delay enrollment, you can face a permanent late enrollment penalty that lasts for life. Third is your pension election. For many people, this decision is final. And I've drilled down deep into this discussion in other episodes. Single life, joint survivor, lump sum, once you choose, you typically cannot go back. This is a one-way door. And this is where modeling scenarios matter, especially for your spouse. You want to understand how each option behaves over time before you sign anything. And finally, we arrive at what may, in my mind, may be one of the most valuable windows in your entire retirement timeline. And what do we call this? We call this the gap years. The gap years is the period between retirement and age 73 or 75, and this is where RMDs begin required minimal distributions. For many people, this is the lowest tax bracket that they will ever see again in their life. If most of your assets are in a traditional 401k and you're sitting on deferred taxes that will be eventually coming due, once RMDs begin, those withdrawals, they stack up on top of Social Security and any other pension income that you may have. And a combination can push you right back into the higher tax brackets and trigger IRMAA all over again. So the strategy becomes very clear. Use the gap years very intentionally. Delay Social Security if it fits your plan. I took mine at 66 and a half. Keep your taxable income controlled. Then begin converting portions of your traditional accounts into a Roth, again, if it fits your model. In my case, my wife is 10 years younger than me. I consider this as a second phase retirement for her. You're choosing to pay taxes now at lower rates in exchange for tax-free income later. As you move through this final stage, confirm your beneficiary designations. A will does not override a named beneficiary on accounts like a 401k or an IRA. That detail really matters, folks, more than most people even begin to realize. Retirement at age 65 is not just an ending, it is a shift from accumulation to maintenance or extraction. If you approach it deliberately in stages with a clear checklist, your plan, it'll hold up. And for clarity, I'm a retired airline pilot that has a passion for finance. I've got a BA in economics from Texas A&M, and I'm not a paid investment professional, nor am I trying to get you on my email list. Also, I have a new episode that comes out every Saturday at around 10 Central Standard Time. I do ask that you place comments at the bottom of these shows because this is where I get a lot of content ideas for future shows. And I will tell you that I read all comments on Sundays unless I'm on the road, and I will respond to them. Check out my channel on tips about retirement and investing and finance and travel and health and more. I'm getting ready to go on a cruise there very shortly. It'll be my first cruise, and I can't wait to tell you what it was like for me. And remember this, health is wealth and wealth is freedom. Now let's get busy living. Thanks for listening.